Welcome to my podcast, Shaping Your Journey. My guest in this episode is multi-platinum artist Tris Imboden, who is best known for his longtime work with the band Chicago, Stevie Wonder, and many others. Here is Tris Imboden. Welcome, Tris. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I've been looking forward to speaking with you about, on the conversation of shaping your journey. Thanks for being on.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Aldo.
And I've known you and watched you perform, with Chicago, mainly over the years, and you've done, incredible things. I won't talk about it. I'll let you speak about it. But let's start with, where does this all start for you? What was that first spark that made you plunge in, as they say?
Well, I've told this story probably too many times in interviews, but my father had taken me to a parade, and I remember still vividly, even though I think I was 6 years old, 5 or 6 years old, and a marching band went by, and the drum section was playing this cadence. And man, I got to tell you, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I was so moved, Aldo. And it sounds corny, but at that point, I knew that I was going to somehow that would be part of my life. It had to be. It was just so powerful.
How old were you then?
Probably 6 years old.
6, nice.
Around then, yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, it's amazing, what point something that really hits our brain at one point or another. For some of us, it was that night on the Ed Sullivan Show, and that's a classic. The next day, we were all suddenly musicians. And then, if it wasn't that, it was the marching band. I did both, actually. The first was the first was the night with Ringo Starr and the Beatles. Yeah. And then the next one was, there was a marching band at the church where I was going, and I joined the band, but I wanted to be a drummer, but they had too many drummers, and I had to play bugle for a while. But the drummers would show me things, and I'd say, show me in case one of you didn't show up, I could be there for you, that kind of thing. That never happened, of course. I kept on playing bugle, actually, for a long time, and then the rest is history. But let's go on. What happened after that?
Well, okay. Well, I should also mention that I had an uncle whom was involved with sailing, and he was on this particular boat that won the Transpac race from Los Angeles Harbor to Honolulu, and then there was another race from there to Tahiti, and so he was part of both races. But when he discovered Tahiti, he absolutely fell in love, not with just Tahiti, but the music, and of course a woman.
Okay.
And so he stayed there for a few years. And when he came back, he was speaking Tahitian and French.
Beautiful.
And playing Tahitian guitar. And he had these albums with him, like Drums of Bora Bora and Tahitian drumming. And he brought me a toede, which is a hollowed out log.
Right.
Now, I was all of just barely over when I saw that first marching band, and I was so moved. So I listened to these albums over and over and over again. And man, they made such an impression on me. I just love that, the phrasing and Tahitian drumming, I guess. And even to this day, when I solo, occasionally I'll listen back and go, oh my God, that's a direct cop from Drums of Bora Bora. It's like, right. It's so ingrained in me. But so anyway, that was a real important part early on for me. And I thank my uncle for that. And that was my first drum, the toede. I have to say, it's amazing to me that your life and my life parallel so closely. In junior high school, wanted to join the marching band as well, but there were too many drummers. And so I was forced to take up trumpet. And so I I played trumpet and I did okay. I actually got to second chair, but
Nice.
or rather the music instructor knew that I was really a drummer at heart. And I was like you, I was hanging with the drummers all the time and, trying to play, along with them. And they knew that that's what I really wanted to be doing. So it was great. One day I showed up for a rehearsal for a parade we were going to do. Only the director had on a chalkboard, he had the position of everybody in the lineup in the parade. And I looked in the trumpet section and I wasn't there. And I was like, what's going on? And, and I looked at the drum section and he had me on drums. He had me on
Nice.
tom tom.
Beautiful.
So yeah, he figured
Beautiful.
I couldn't mess up not put me directly on snare, not yet anyway. So from that point on, I was a drummer, and yeah. So anyway, that's a part of my early development. I learned how to read then in junior high school, and I did not play throughout high school in the school band. I was too busy playing after having seen the Ed Sullivan Show as well, right?
Ah,
in bands that were playing at the school dances and elsewhere for money. And I was going, wow, this is kind of cool.
yes.
And not just that, but the girls really tended to like guys in bands. And I was a singing drummer back then. So yeah, so I was, man, I knew what I was going to do with my life. Really early on.
Isn't that amazing how like it just happened? It was one of those things. It was like God said, "Here, take that and see what you do with it." And all of us were on the receiving end, and we went, "Thank you," and ran with it. Right? Some of us.
That's so perfectly said. Exactly.
When,
Exactly.
when you think back, I mean, I think back on those things like the Ed Sullivan Show. It's amazing. I mean, I saw statistics. I think there was maybe 30% or 40% or even, no, 70% of Americans, North America, I should say, was watching that show. And
Yes.
everybody at that moment, the same thing happened to them. I mean, to me, that's phenomenal. That's magical. What happens, and then of course they changed the world. They did. Ed Sullivan
Absolutely.
doesn't get as much credit as some people would like to give him. I mean, I saw a recent, I think it was a Netflix thing on Ed Sullivan. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend you do. It really opened up my knowledge of what he was actually doing. It wasn't just a show that introduced all of these great artists to the world. It really opened up the world, certainly North America, you know. And I won't tell you more than that, but it's really amazing. You'll love it.
I'm
But
absolutely look for that. Yeah.
that changed history completely, musically speaking, socially speaking, for all of us. I mean, look what happened after. It hasn't stopped.
Totally. Totally. It hasn't stopped.
Did you
Yeah.
did you go on to study at university, or you went into the playing world and the professional world right away? That's
Was my path. I actually came to wish I had studied in college, or I ideally had gone to North Texas State or Berkeley or some place like
right.
that. I have so many friends that even if they didn't graduate, it was an invaluable experience for them.
Sure.
And but I was asked to join a band, Aldo, that was forming right out of high school that already had a record deal. It was sort of a well-known band in Newport Beach that was breaking up and wanted to form a new band. And they had seen me play with another band. And so they already had this record deal. And so I was kind of like, hmm, that's sort of a leg up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I went, yeah, man, I'm going with the record deal. And that band, I'd seen them. One of the members, actually, I used to watch on television in Los Angeles in other bands. like on Ninth Street West with Sam Riddle and Lloyd Thaxton Show and that. He was in a band called the Cindermen, which actually had some local hits, not national,
Okay.
but in LA it was a big deal, you know.
All
So,
right.
and I was amazed that this bass player could sing and play at the same time. All these complex counterpuntal things, you know, all these singing, great, you know. So there was no question I was going to do that, you know, join a band with him and another Steve Wood, friend of mine. Yeah.
But did you take any formal lessons or you just played?
Well, actually, the only lessons I'd had up until that time were the ones I'd received from the band instructor in junior high school, and he wasn't really a drummer,
Right.
but he knew how to hold the sticks, traditional grip, and that was about it. And read. So I took his instruction and then sort of developed my own. And after that fateful night, you know, on Ed Sullivan too, I switched to match grip.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's been kind of that way ever since. Um, but no, I went on to study on my own privately, first with a great instructor named Bob Raitt, who was in Orange County at a place called Orange County Drum Shop. And then, you know, as the years went on, I would get together and exchange ideas really with other drummers. I was always on the receiving end for the most part, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was glomming onto everything I could.
Right.
And
Right.
then in recent years, I started studying with Bruce Becker,
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
the the great, you know,
Snare
heir
drum
to
stuff.
Pretty
Yeah.
Goober,
Beautiful.
and
Beautiful.
and wow, man, what an amazing guy he is, and great teacher too. So yeah,
But it's important. It's important to learn those foundations, the technical stuff. I mean, people like Ringo Starr, of course, and you know those guys never did. But there's a level of musicianship that was created. They were creators of music, of melody, and I say melody, and they because I don't think of rhythm as anything but melody. Everything to me is melody, and
absolutely.
I teach that way. You know, for years people say, well, "This is rhythm," and then there's melody, and to me that's a strange concept because it's all melody. It's just
I
organized,
I completely agree.
right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting that many of us, especially from that era, started just playing. Some of us went on to university. I mean, I did. I certainly did. And contrary to what you did, I was in a band that got a record deal. And I played the first recording. They got the record deal, but I had to study. I said, I cannot just move ahead because I don't write the songs. I could be replaced anytime. I really want to do this. I want to be a professional musician. So I left. And then they went on, they got signed to Capricorn Records. It was, you know, it was a pretty big. But for me, I had to do this because I didn't want to live with the word regret anything. So I
Right.
said, I can always go back. I can always do something, but I have to build my house. So,
Sure.
but I mean, you did it the other way where you played and you kept on playing. I mean, I saw you with Chicago a number of times. I mean, you're an amazing player, but you
Oh,
also did
thank you.
some work with Stevie Wonder, Neil Young, Neil Diamond, I should say.
Yeah.
Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, if I remember correctly. But Chicago you were with the band for a long time, right?
Yes, in fact, quite nearly 30 years, Aldo. It
30
was
years.
28 years. And I don't know, I don't know where it went.
Those numbers
I
are
guess,
scary, Tris.
yeah, man. But you know, I was so fortunate. That band that I mentioned to you, Honk, it was called Honk,
Okay.
Honk. We had we had two major record deals. The final one being with Epic Records and CBS. And by the time the band had broken up, unfortunately, the band broke up because we were just on the verge. We were selling out a week at the Troubadour, which was a big deal back then. You know, the Troubadours were, Elton was discovered and Donny Hathaway recorded, you know, that What's Going On and all of that. And so anyway, uh, by the time the band broke up, we were sort of respected as musicians and kind of known as players. And so at that point, I thought I'd move to LA and start, you know, seeking my fame and fortune as a session guy or whatever and see what happens. And anyway, I was working with an artist that I'd done a couple albums with, a British artist named Ian Matthews,
Oh,
who
yes.
was in a band called Fairport Convention originally, and then he had Matthews Southern Comfort, and
Yes.
I really liked the guy and his music, and I liked, you know, what we were doing. But I had a girlfriend that was pushing me at the time to go audition for Kenny Loggins, and we actually Honk had coincidentally opened for Loggins and Messina before Kenny went solo, and Chicago, which was turned out to be prophetic as well.
Right.
Uh, so anyway, I loved Kenny's voice and his music, but
Sure.
I wasn't prepared for how cool this his solo stuff was. So I went and auditioned, not really thinking that I would get the gig, and I was a little bit ambivalent because I was getting ready to go on the road with Ian Matthews to open for Little Feat to promote our last album. And so I really didn't think, because there was over 100 drummers that had auditioned, and most of which were idols of mine. And so I really didn't think I had a chance, although, but they kept calling me back and calling me back. And so, man, it finally happened. Kenny called me up and said, "Do you want to join a band?" I went, "Oh yeah." So that kind of sealed my trajectory, if you will,
Right.
because after joining the Kenny Loggins, went on the road with Fleetwood Mac opening on the Rumors tour, and then we ended up cutting a song called "Whenever I Call You Friend" with Stevie Nicks, which blew up. And after that, I got a lot of session work, and particularly after Kenny started writing with Michael McDonald as well. So
Wow.
anyway, "This Is It" and "Heart to Heart," those songs really put me on the map, you know, kind of. So
Nice. But talk about a little bit about, we always say doing the auditions. Now, here's a scenario. Most people don't expand on that. Like, and I've gone to auditions. We've all gone to auditions. They're scary, very scary, because you're also, at this point, you're a player, you're a well-known player. So what happens to most of us say, well, I'm at a stage that if people want me to play, they'll call me. They've seen me play. That
right,
doesn't necessarily happen, right?
not always, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
So
not often enough.
so most of the time they do the cattle call, and there are 50 drummers, 100 drummers. Frank Zappa has, Vinny has 10 other people that he has to listen to. I mean, even here's an interesting one. When Paul McCartney first put the Wings together after the Beatles, and that was like, how do you create a band after the Beatles?
Right,
And, yeah, and not, yeah, and he wasn't even 30 years old yet, right?
right.
And putting a band together. So how did Denny Sewell, who was a well-known studio drummer in New York, come out and audition? He had to audition because Paul wanted to hear some drummers. It wasn't as brutal as most of those auditions that we all go to, but nonetheless, you still have to audition, and you're being taken apart, and listened to
Under the
by.
microscope, yeah.
So it's really interesting for us to understand that that's an important process. If that's what you have to do, you have to do if you want the potential of that next thing happening for you,
Yes.
right? Because if we don't do the audition, you'll never get the gig. It's impossible, no matter how great you might be,
That's so
right?
true. That's so true. Yeah.
So you
And
like many, and that's the thing for anybody to understand. You do the audition, you put your your pride aside and you say, okay, people have to listen to you. That's just the process. It's just, they know what they want. It's like auditioning for a part in a film. It could be great actors, but there's only one that's going to fit the person in that place, either musically, personality-wise, all of the above, that will fit that bill. It's a hard call. But doing the audition, right? Explain a little bit what goes through your mind when you did those auditions.
Well, that is so true, and the parallel as well. What I really like with a director, with actors, uh, or producer with musicians, and likewise. But back to auditions. Um, I was fortunate enough with regard to Kenny that they would only audition one guy at a time, and there weren't, the cattle call that you were talking about, because I've
Right.
seen those as well. Uh, but it was between the hours of 10 and 2 would be your audition with Kenny. And George Hawkins, the great bass player, rest his soul, was conducting the auditions. But they were so together. Kenny has always been so meticulous. He had like a combination of I forget who did the charts, but every part that it was Steve Gadd and Harvey Mason, whom had played on that first album, two of my
Okay.
absolute favorites. And, and
Good.
they had every note meticulously written out, whoever transcribed it, of each song that you would play from that new album. And not only that, for those that didn't read, or if reading wasn't their strong suit, they would play the record, and you could read along or just listen, or whatever, or both. And then you'd try to play it, and they'd say, okay, well, let's listen one more time if you'd like. And so they made it as comfortable as it ever was. I mean, the most comfortable audition I ever experienced. But as I said, I thought truly I had only a deer fart in a windstorm's chance of, of getting the gig, because, as I said, there were so many named drummers that were auditioning for this.
Right.
Kenny was so well respected already, and
Of course.
the word on the street was, "Wow, this new album's incredible." Bob James had produced it, and with Phil
Wow.
Ramone, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and it
Of
was.
course.
So anyway, I that was a great experience for me, and a real confidence booster too, because we've all gone to auditions where we didn't get the gig, you know, and uh, and your
Yes.
analogy with like actors and parts in a movie is so true. It doesn't mean you're not a good player, or you just might not have been right for that particular scenario, that musically, or, as you know, traveling together on the
Yeah.
road. You have to be able to get along, and if the chemistry isn't there, if it's just not, you feel it, and the prospect of traveling for years on end with somebody that you doesn't feel quite right. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
like you can't blame an artist or a band for not, for passing on somebody that might play that amazing job on their music, but for whatever reason,
Yeah.
personally, just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, no, no, it's important because people sometimes forget that part. That yes, you have to play at that level, absolutely, without question. But also, when you're spending so much time, you're spending more time with the group when you're on a tour than you are with your family. You're on a tour bus. You're day and night. You're eating together. You're waiting for calls. You have to be in the lobby of the hotel at that specific hour. You have to follow the itinerary and be totally professional about it, and also pleasant about it, because when things change, and they do, or
Yeah,
something goes down, that something happens, that decisions have to be made quickly, and you have to be able to improvise even that, and be
right.
flexible so that the production works, or the tour doesn't get massacred, for lack of a better word.
Absolutely.
You have to be part of the solution at all times. And if somebody is uncomfortable, people who make the decisions, and you're not the person who understands that or can deal with that, well, yes, we know what happens.
Sorry, but
Yeah.
thank you very next.
Yes, yes, yes. And life is too short, and they know that. You know, they can get so many different people. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, and I tell my students, I mean, we're so fortunate to be able to do this, to have this as what we do. It's an unbelievable gift. And if it's something you're crazy enough to do and you love it, it doesn't get better.
Absolutely.
You know, no matter what is thrown at you, you know, you dodge and all of that. But to be able to get up every day and play music, different people, and it's a joyous moment because that's chemistry in your own brain, but between people, and things that you can't buy, right?
So true.
It's so amazing. And then the joy you bring to an audience, whether they're 5 people or 50,000 people, the
Right.
joy you bring to that crowd who's paid money to see this artist or the group or whatever situation you're in, and to bring them joy for a moment, and they leave feeling much better in their heads than when they came. Done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, beyond a gift.
Oh,
I really
I mean,
think it becomes a responsibility,
of course.
too, and to not be taken for granted. We have been given the ultimate gift to do what our heart, is drawn to, and the privilege of doing it, man. It really is that,
Yeah.
and. Oh my God. And that exchange, that energy exchange that you talk about with an audience, man, there's just no greater high. And particularly in those magical moments and nights when everybody in the band is just having a great night. I mean, there's nothing like that. And the audience knows it, the band knows it, and it's just that's what we chase,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Every day,
Always.
every day, every moment, and it's important to keep sanity because you know stuff happens, things will take you down, but you have to have an understanding in your head that you have to show up, you have to do the work, and it's a lot of work. I mean, you know, the glory is beautiful and the joy we get, but how many lonely hours did you spend in the practice room?
Oh man, yeah.
You know.
And still do.
Yes, and that's the price to pay for happiness.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll never.
Abs-
I know in your. I mean, we can all say the same variations of this theme. But I remember my first year university, where I was sweating because I saw some of the other people that were so much more advanced than I, and I had so much catching up to do. I didn't know how to practice, like all of this, so
Sure.
I would be practicing 15 hours a day. Of course, getting maybe 1 hour's worth of work done until I actually learned how to practice, that whole process.
Yeah.
But my friends would call me on a Friday night, Aldo, we're going out skating. We're all the girls are coming out with us. We're gonna have a big party. Come out with us Friday night. And I would watch them from the practice room at the university, and they're having a great time. I'd hear them, and I'm there doing my Delecluse studies and all of this stuff. I said, I gotta get this done, but that's hard.
That's hard, man. Really. With life pulling at you from all different directions. Yeah.
But if one doesn't do that, then there's no hope. There's no chance. But if you do that, at least there's a possibility. And if something doesn't happen, but at least you gave it your best,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
right?
Right. And gee, I've always been sort of gobsmacked by those players that we all know that were so absolutely brilliant, but for whatever reason didn't get the opportunities to present
Yeah.
it to them, you know, or for whatever reason that the casting call just they never were in the right place at the right time, you know. And first of all, you have to have the goods, like you say, but there are those that are so overqualified as well,
Yes.
and they never got a shot even, you know. So that's why it's particularly magical, and there's so much kismet and fate and
Yes.
that play into, you know, who gets to do it for their whole life and who doesn't, and in what capacity, you know. And oftentimes there's no rhyme or reason to that,
Right,
you
right.
know.
And I mean, in your case, I mean, you're in LA. I mean, what happens if you're in Mobile, Alabama, for example? That
Yes,
may not happen. But there are ways to do it. You go to camps, you go to these, you go study somewhere and meet people. So the whole building of the network of connecting with other people is super important. I tell everybody,
absolutely.
even
You
though you
know,
don't live.
although, oh, I'm sorry,
No,
I
no, I was
didn't
just
mean
going
to
to say,
interrupt.
even though you don't
Like,
live in New York or LA or Montreal or Toronto, where there's a lot of playing, a lot of recording, you could do it by connecting those people, maybe going in occasionally, but making it part of your network is what you do. Eventually, now, certainly with technology, we don't really have to be there.
right, right. It's a different age now, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But you were
Uh,
saying, sorry.
Whereas it definitely used to be out of sight, out of mind,
Yes.
and you know, we'd hear rumors about, you know, oh, I've heard this player from Toronto, you know, or from, like you say, from Birmingham, Alabama, and you know, occasionally, you know, those players would come to it, worldwide recognition, but it used to be that being from Southern California really was a leg up for me. Um, you know, I was so close to Los Angeles, even though I'm from Orange County to the south. It's, you know, an hour away, or it used to be back then. It's more like 3 hours away now.
Yes.
But I could go see, you know, everybody you can imagine play. Um, I could actually, you know, once I was up and running, kind of, I could avail myself to to new opportunities there, you know. Whereas, you know, somebody living in another part of the world wouldn't be able to, you know.
Right.
So I was very fortunate in that respect.
The Chicago thing that you spent a long time. I remember the last time I saw you play with Chicago was Walfredo, who had invited me to the concert. Percussionist. He was playing percussion at the time. Now he's playing drums, and I've
Yes.
known the Walfredo Reyes family
Oh,
since I can remember. Father, son, and everybody
brothers.
else. Yes, brothers. I mean, I don't know where they came from, but they were throwing everything at them. I mean, they're brilliant, brilliant musicians, brilliant people. But
Absolutely.
it's really interesting because you developed. No, let me go back because what's interesting is how did that come about specifically? I know you were in those circles where everybody saw each other all the time, which really
Mhm.
helps. But specifically the Chicago, because that was a great being there for so long, and you were a great. You were like the anchor. I remember I saw you and I said, "Boy, he's solid."
Oh,
You
thank
know,
you. Thank
like a
you so
rock.
much. Well, you know how that came to be, Aldo, was actually Danny had had left. He had been asked to leave, and which I have to tell this kind of side story. I That angered me when I heard that that was happening, and actually it had angered me before when I knew that, because I was working with David Foster at the time,
Okay.
when Danny was not uh, asked to record at a certain session, and Jeff was there, you know, Jeff Coro, and uh, anyway, I heard about that, and because I was in the next day with Humberto Gatica and and David, and not to record with Chicago, but with someone else that they were
Right,
producing.
right.
And I'd heard about it, and I said, you know, David, you can't do that. It's like, what are you doing? Danny is such an integral part of that whole sound. My
Sure,
God,
sure.
it's like you know, you don't put somebody other than Ringo on a Beatles record. You know, you just don't do it, or it's going to just change, upset everything. You know,
Sure.
and so. And it wasn't very smart on my part. I know, I'm sure, because but I had to say it because I loved the band so much.
Sure. I had seen the original band with Danny, by the way, when I was a
Yes,
kid. Yeah.
oh man,
Brilliant. Brilliant.
amazing! And I'd seen him when I was 16 years old, and
Yeah.
and loved the band back then. Um, so anyway, um, well, my point was,
So they decided not to invite Danny to do on
yes.
this
Oh,
record,
thank you.
right?
And most of Chicago 21 had been recorded at that point, and uh, so anyway, I got a call out of the blue, not expecting it at all. I had just come back from Europe. I'd been playing with Al Jarreau,
Oh,
and I had been
nice.
dividing my time between Al Jarreau, which was that's a whole nother chapter
Beautiful.
in my life. I absolutely can't believe I had the good fortune and the privilege to work with that most brilliant man. Uh, anyway, and dividing my time between Kenny Loggins and Al Jarreau. But for the first time in a long time, I was facing a summer with no tour. And so I get a call from Bill Champlin. He said, "Hey, man, what are you doing this summer?" And I said, "Funny you should ask. Why?" He said, "How'd you like to play with the band?" And I went, "Are you kidding me? Let me think about it. Yes." And and so actually, that's all it was. It was no real audition or anything. I was headed to Peru the next day after that phone call to do a video with my then wife, Cecilia Noel, who was a great, you know, I don't know if you know about the Wild Clams and all, great band, but she was also a great choreographer. And
Okay.
so we were going to go to Lima, and where she's from, and do this video with this artist that we'd recorded with. But anyway, it was the weirdest thing because the next thing I know, Jason Chef's at my house with a cassette for me to learn their show, and I'm winging my way to Lima, Peru, listening to Chicago Live, going, I'm the drummer of Chicago. You know, there was no audition, Alden. There
Wow.
was none of that. And so I just went, oh man, I better really know my stuff when I go in. You know, I just wanted to make it seamless. So I did. I really went in and nailed it. The chemistry was right there. I mean, everybody felt it, and we all got along great. And it just, that's almost 30 years later,
Wow.
you know.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah,
That's
I
amazing.
will always be eternally grateful for having had that experience because they were one of my favorite bands.
Sure, that's amazing, and it's funny because I mean I got to know Danny a little bit. At one point, he recorded the CTA, the California Transit
Transit
Authority. Remember?
Authority, right?
Yes. And at one point, there was some gig was coming up, and he had actually asked me if I would play percussion on his in that project, not for the recording, but he had done the recording already for some other gigs, for some other things on the East Coast. Or so. I said, sure. Are you kidding, man? I would love to. That would be amazing because he's such a
Yeah.
great drummer, a great musician. And but it's really interesting how these things happen, and it's seemingly like out of the blue. Like how do these things just come about? And these things are like nebulous and coming around the planet, and all of a sudden you happen to be there. I mean, I don't believe in coincidences, Tris.
No.
You know, I don't know if you do, but I don't. So how is it that that summer you didn't have? Come on, that you were. Everything is a setup. So You make the decision, yes, no. Yes takes you there, no takes you there, and both are okay, right?
Right?
So that you're open, that's going on with the band, with Chicago. These people know who you are. All of a sudden, there's a situation, perfect or not.
Yes, or not. Right. And this was just perfect. And I don't believe it in coincidences either. And this certainly wasn't a coincidence that I wasn't working right then, that summer. It's
It's,
just, oh, I
I
still
mean,
can't believe I pinched myself.
yeah, no, no, but you always have to be ready and you always have to show up.
Yeah.
That's important. But it's really interesting. I mean, all these conversations, there's always some funny coincidence or something that feels like a coincidence, but it's just a situation that is created because of the way life works. There's a billion things going on at the same time, but here's that combination, and there's a decision to be made by different people. And
Yes.
all along those decisions are then what happens with this one and that one. It's really interesting.
Absolutely, Aldo.
It's nice. It's
Aldo,
nice to be on
can
the
I?
receiving end.
Sorry, what was
it's
that?
it's nice to be on the receiving end.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
So I mean, it's really interesting when those things happen. But what immediately you were on the tour with the band, and it just stayed on for 30 years.
Yes, well, pretty much. Chicago, it's probably the hardest working band in show business. No, I mean, that's a cliche, and probably should be reserved for James Brown. But but
Yes.
the band, I'd never, in all my many wonderful opportunities that I'd had to play with so many, I'd never been on the road so much as I had once I joined Chicago. Uh, when I first joined, we were on the road about 6 months out of every year.
Wow.
And I thought that was a lot. But I was still able to manage, doing some recordings with producers that I was working with in my time off and kind of, getting to do some other things other than just being on the road. But as time went on, it really ramped up. And by the time I left, it was 9 to 10 months out of every
Wow.
year, and had
Wow.
been for a number of years. And so that's really why I chose to step away. Although I have been married 4 times,
Oh,
and the
ouch.
fourth being I finally got it right. So even though, like the good fortune of getting to play with so many of my heroes and doing what I love my whole life, that was being such a gift. In love, it doesn't
Yeah.
always work that way. Or I'm not sure whether it was because of being gone all the time or whatever the case, just wasn't the right person. But I finally found the right person. And that was the majority of the reason why I just chose, I've got to step away. That coupled with the fact that I had survived lung cancer.
Wow.
And I was diagnosed in 2008, and I met my current wife, Mary, in 2016. I'm so fortunate to be alive, first of all, but then
Wow.
to have
Yeah.
the good fortune to have met my soulmate.
Yeah.
I just didn't want anything to happen to jeopardize that relationship.
Yeah.
And
That's a tough one. I married late just because I saw that I was, my group Repercussion, we would do 150 concerts a year, and I saw two of the guys going through divorces, and I'm sure being on the road, it doesn't help. So you have to have some kind of chemistry, some kind of luck. For me, I said, I don't want to go through that. So I always made sure that I did as much touring early on as possible so that later I wouldn't have to unless I could have real control over the situation. I was lucky that way. And so I met my wife, Yolan, later on, which was like perfect timing. It's like I landed, and there she was.
Oh,
And
great. Good.
and people don't understand how important that is in your life. That's your better half, and the important thing is for you to make sure that that person is okay, in every sense. And then she also understands the same thing, and then you just and it works. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. Without that, every day I say, "Thank God you're there,"
Yep.
and with the sense
Me
of
too.
humor, you know. Because there's
Totally.
some things you just can't explain to people, because it's in there and it's in here. You know what it is, and
Yeah.
when two people are on that same page, oh man, it's like great making a great record. It's like making a great track, like making a
Yeah.
great composition. But this is permanent that you continuously work on, and every day it's another work in progress, just like playing.
Yes. Yes.
But that one
Absolutely.
even more because you're playing, at some point physically, you may not be able to sustain it, or when you're 100 years old, it's not the same thing as when you're 50 or 20. But the personality, we still have our brain and our minds and what we have interiorized after all the wisdom all of these years, to be able to
Right.
share it with somebody who gets it, who gets you.
Oh man.
Wow.
Yeah. So blessed and so grateful. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, Aldo.
And then after you left Chicago, I mean that's a hard decision because Chicago obviously was one of the great bands since the '60s and are still touring. It's like saying the Rolling Stones. I mean, many artists that are Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr. I mean, all these people who are just keep it going, which is fortunate because it
Yes.
provides a barometer for the new artists to see longevity is a big one. And also
Yeah.
those of us who lived, that's the soundtrack of our lives, for lack of a better word, right? So we can
Oh,
go all the way back. We're part of that as a spectator and developed us. Sometimes we're part of it. And
right.
then we can talk about it.
Right. 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 I know it. Well, never in my wildest dreams did I ever see myself as being a part of something so incredibly historically important or
Yes.
as lasting as the band Chicago. I mean, what an enormous honor.
Yes.
And and then to have been able to contribute in some way all those years, my God,
And you,
I'm beyond grateful,
and
man.
you did
And
13 albums, I saw, right?
I'm
13
sorry.
albums? 13 albums?
Yes, yes, uh-huh. By the time I joined, it was right about it was a time when the industry itself was kind of changing, and um, uh, there were there was one album we did um, called Stone of Sisyphus in 1993, 94. It didn't come out until 2008 or something
Wow.
because at that point we'd had a sort of a disagreement with the record company and we chose to step away. They said they weren't going to release it, and so we stepped away. That's why it didn't come out till when it did. But that is probably my favorite recording that I ever did with Chicago. The producer, Peter Wolf, really pushed us.
Okay.
He wanted, more. He used to play with Frank Zappa. He's that brilliant Austrian keyboardist, and as well as so many other things. And he knew how to bring it out of musicians. He's such a great player himself,
Right.
and he really pushed Jimmy Pankow, to really go for it on the horn arrangements and that. And he wasn't afraid to take chances. And so, I got to do cross rhythms and polyrhythms and stuff you don't hear on most pop records.
Right, right, right.
So anyway, but at that point, when we had done that album, grunge had reared its head, and a sort of anti-corporate rock and roll was a movement was afoot, kind of, and so we got caught up in that, I think, and as a result, that album didn't see the light of day until much after the fact,
Right.
and but I did get to play all that great material with them, that and they encouraged me to make it my own, and not feel tied to the doc, or to just uh, do my best Danny Seraphin impersonation. In fact, from the very first day, they said, "Make it your own. Don't feel like you have to do what Danny did." But I found out in during the first few years that when I did try to make it my interpretation, it didn't always work right. In fact, sometimes if I didn't do a fill or a close enough approximation of what Danny had done, it sounded like I was trying to put, pardon this expression, but tits on a fish. It just that didn't work.
Yeah.
So I ended up in a lot of cases in certain songs trying to play exactly what Danny did. Um,
Well,
then,
sometimes those parts they become such an integral part of the song, like the Beatles. I mean, Ringo, whatever Ringo did, you can't change a one note. If you do,
absolutely.
and I tried. I had this discussion with Greg Bizinet because I was asked to do a Beatle thing, and then I discovered, like, if you changed a single thing, it's like changing the words to a song, and it
Mhm.
really really blew my mind how brilliant all those parts are. They sound simple, but when I was writing them out, I said, how did he come up with that? And I would
No,
call Greg and I say, what was he thinking? And he said, I don't know, and he doesn't remember.
I know,
So,
I
but it's
know.
it's such brilliant.
Oh
So
my
you can't,
God.
certain things you can't change.
No,
Yeah,
absolutely. They're every bit as important as a lyric,
yeah,
or
yeah.
in Chicago's case, a lyric or a horn line,
Sure.
what Danny brought to the table too.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
speaking of Greg, and whom I love so much, and needless to say, Ringo as well, but I had honor beyond honors bestowed upon me. My wife and I were planning to go see Ringo, and had tickets and all, and had told Greg, we were coming, and so he was arranging for backstage, us to get together. But right before we left, he called again and said, "Look, Tris, I don't want to promise anything, but there's a good chance that tonight you're going to sit in, play Ringo's drums. We'll play, we'll play double drums together. So I want you to look at, like, with a little help from my friends, and give peace a chance, because we do them as a medley at the
Right.
end." And I'm like, "What?" I couldn't believe my ears.
Wow.
And so anyway, he said, "Yeah, so get on YouTube and check out the arrangements, because we do them together." So I don't know. I was completely rattled, and my wife drove to the show because I had the headphones on, studying YouTube,
Right, right.
the whole way. And sure enough, I got to go up and play with Ringo and
Wow.
Greg, and it was so great. I knew so many guys in the band, Steve Lukather I'd worked with so much, and Hamish Stewart, and
Nice,
Cullen,
nice.
anyway, it was wonderful. It was what an experience. So I have a pair of Ringo's drumsticks from that occasion.
Nice, nice. Well, I mean, well deserved, of course, but it's nice that kind of stuff happens. And Greg Bizinet is such a wonderful person. He's. I mean, what, I can go on and on, but I won't.
Me too. I
you know,
love that guy.
and
Absolutely love
people
him.
like that, just the world is your oyster, and let's have fun with this, because these are the people. All those people have a big part of had a lot to do with a big part of our lives, and the fact that the people are always thinking it's not always about you, it's about it. It's about what can we do that take this up a notch, and everybody has something in it, takes something from it to make the world a better place, for lack of a better word. But that's so nice. And then you feel like $1,000,000, and people are surprised. The musicians puts like a little pepper on that pasta,
Right.
Nice.
Oh man.
And
Yeah.
since you left Chicago, though, getting back to that discussion, like what are the things that you've been doing? I know you haven't been sitting on your hands.
Well, no, I put a band together. Actually, coincidentally, I'm glad I brought up that night with Ringo, because on the way home, this is my wife, who just has a great mind and very creative. And anyway, we had observed that this new musical genre, yacht rock, had emerged.
Yacht rock?
Well, actually, I should say, when I left Chicago, I went back and played with Kenny Loggins for a
Right.
year. And one of the shows we did was together with Michael McDonald, Christopher Cross, and Kenny at Hollywood Bowl, and it was completely sold out. And there were all these people wearing yacht attire, like captain's hats and all this stuff. And I had heard of yacht rock, and I knew a little bit about Kenny was included in the genre, and Michael McDonald, and a lot of people that I'd worked with, in the past, and on those records that were considered, essential yacht rock and all. So
Yacht
anyway,
rock.
on the way back from Ringo's show and me sitting in, my wife says, you know, with all the people that you know in the business, and with all the records that you've played on that are considered yacht rock, you could kind of put something together, maybe like kind of like Ringo's, only in a yacht rock sense. And so I went, God, the more I thought about it, I thought that's a good idea, because I did play on quite a few of those records, and I have a lot of pals that played on others that are considered that. So I put this band together. I started making phone calls, and everybody I talked to said I'd love to, but I'm busy,
Nice.
or yeah, count me in. So anyway, so I put this band together and called it Tris Imboden Yacht Stars. And
Yacht stars.
I've got,
Oh, I
the
love it.
guitarist,
Love
Michael
it.
McDonald's original guitarist, and who also co-wrote for Michael's first album. And he was also with Boss Skaggs. Bruce Bollinger on guitar, and then Michael Paulo, the great saxophonist that I worked with Al Jarreau with for many years, and now we have Carl Hergesell, who was with Kenny Loggins for 25 years, and anyway, it's just it's comprised of all these guys that have
Beautiful.
skin in the game, you know, and
Nice. Beautiful.
so it's a great band, and we don't wear like the captain suits and all that stuff that these other yacht rock bands do. Not to take away from them, it's just that they're celebrating the music, and but we actually made the music, so uh, so anyway. We work,
Nice.
we're going to Hawaii to do our next show, actually. We're going to play a couple of shows in the islands, and we don't work all that much, which suits me just fine.
Nice.
And I've
Beautiful.
got another show coming up with Honk, that band I mentioned earlier on. That is one of the members is a veteran who has had throat cancer now, or had his thyroid removed, and he can't sing now. So, and then he had, anyway, I won't go into the details, but we're doing a benefit for him.
Beautiful.
And
Beautiful.
Michael McDonald, we're going to be playing with Michael. Michael is going to be a part of
Nice.
that. So we're real excited about that. And
Beautiful.
yeah, so and doing sessions. I'm living in Las Vegas right now, and there's really a great scene here. You know, Steve Gadd lives
Steve
here
Gadd's
now.
there. I know.
And
But
yeah.
Danny was also out there. I think he moved back. He moved out. I think Danny was in Vegas.
I didn't know that. I know Wally has been, you know, at different
Yeah.
times, and they all the De Los Reyes were here for a long time, and but I know yeah, I didn't know Danny was here though. That's yeah.
Yeah, I think he may have left, but I know he did go buy. He bought a house in Vegas, and I suspect that if I remember correctly that he had left, unless I'm imagining, but he did spend time there. Yeah, but I mean you're
I
so
know they're
close to
coming. Oh,
you're so close to LA, so, and without the traffic,
exactly, exactly. Yeah.
you don't have to buy a helicopter.
There we go. Oh, that I could.
Don't
Yeah.
need one. Don't need one. But that's fantastic. I mean, the nice thing is that you're still like we have this energy that you want to put it into certain things, and it's nice that your wife came up with the idea. You probably would have come up with the idea also because it's that kind of thing that now you want to do something very specific, and you can take the time to do it because you've put in you put in those 10,000 or 10 million hours. But also from a creative point of view, there's some things you weren't able to do before because you're on the road, you're on a project, but now you become more of a master of your time and you say, okay, I really want to do this or I want to do that. Of course, you're going to do other things. I mean, because we're musicians, we love to play, and you can't take that out of us. But having the possibility of doing this project, love it.
Yeah,
Congrats, man.
it's really fun, and yeah, uh, and it's it really kind of in some ways I've wondered should I be playing these songs that I've played so many years or so many years ago, and it's like am I like has it come to this? Am I like the K-tel of drummers now? With playing oldies and only but
But
no, I believe some music is timeless and should be celebrated and will live on, and
sure,
I've
sure.
been fortunate enough to be a part of some of those records. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And you're still having fun, right?
absolutely, that's the thing, and the audiences do. So that's the main thing as well.
Beautiful. And I
Makes it
mean,
complete.
and staying healthy, that's mind and I mean your lung thing. I mean, when these things come up, it's kind of somebody knocking on the door and say, okay, now you have to be a little more careful in this department.
Yes, absolutely. Gee,
Beautiful.
and
Yeah.
there again, I'd say, gee, I don't even want to get started telling you the details, but I shouldn't be here, although I really shouldn't. It's a miracle. And I do not take that lightly and for granted in the least. I am so grateful. And that God thought it wasn't my time,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, that saw fit to heal me. So
That's good. Well, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
that's what they say. Yeah.
And you
I'm
still
still surfing too.
Yeah, no,
And
I was
we'll
gonna
play
say
drums.
I read I didn't know that you were a surfer, and I read he's a surfer. Now I understand.
Yeah.
Now I
That was
get
my
it.
other passion. It's been my other passion. The ocean, always growing up, near the beach or on the beach. And my dad surfed, too, same kind of thing. So I kind of just grew up with it.
Yeah.
And I had the good fortune also to live in Hawaii for about 7 years.
Wow. Yeah.
And while I was still playing, I was playing with Chicago. So on time off, I'd fly back to the island of Kauai on the North Shore and get to surf waves that I could only dream of before. I actually got to do it. Scared me to death.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
work up to it,
Yeah.
no matter how much you've surfed.
Yeah.
But
No, I know a few people who surfed well, not professionally, but to that level. But I mean, after a while, some had accidents, some had. But the Pacific Pacific. I don't know why they called it the Pacific. It's not really Pacific.
You must be Pacific now.
Yeah.
Pacific.
Yes.
You say Pacific.
But that's great, and it's nice to have other things in your life besides music. Other interests, other things that keep you in shape, and certainly that keeps you in shape.
Yes, yes. And I really questioned whether or not I was going to be able to do that because in coming back from lung cancer, I had like 2/3 of my right lung removed.
Wow.
So that really cuts your cardiovascular strength and your paddle power and all that down. And so I'm not surfing waves the size that I used to, but I'm still able to get out there and surf. So
Beautiful,
I'm really
beautiful.
grateful.
Drumming and surfing. That's the yeah. It reminds me of the Beach Boys for some reason. This whole thing.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, gee, yeah, boy, what an incredible, talk about another influential and historically important group,
Yeah.
the Beach Boys, man. We toured with Chicago together since I was in the band, and they'd done a number of tours together before I was in the band.
Okay.
And yeah, Brian, rest his soul, was just what a brilliant songwriter, man.
What a brilliant
My
man. Yeah.
God.
I mean that whole competition between the Beatles and the Beach Boys was amazing. Like the next record, okay, now they're trying to outdo the other one.
Yeah, I know it. I know.
Amazing, amazing.
Amazing. Just amazing. I had the good fortune also of recording with Brian on his first solo album. And
Nice.
it was it was really something, man. He was coming out of his where he'd been isolated for those many years and sort of reemerging. And to be around him was really a gift, because uh, there's a movie called Love and Mercy that sort of addresses all that period of time, and that's when I got to work with him.
Okay.
He was really just kind of returning from a real dark place,
Sure.
and
Yeah. It must have been really hard for him because he isolated himself off him. I mean, I saw the movie, the documentary on the Beach Boys.
yes,
So I got to see, how that was going, that whole setup where he would stay home and they would tour. He would write the songs, prepare the material and all of that. But
right.
he was always much of a loner. What a brilliant mind.
Oh
Wow. It's just,
man, and to a person, the Wrecking Crew. When you talk to Hal,
Hal
now he's
Blaine,
gone too,
yes.
but they all just shake their heads when to recall working with Brian because they couldn't believe the things he would envision sonically and how he would direct them and just kind of take control. And they hear playback and it was like, oh my God, that's just brilliant. That's the perfect
Yeah.
thing, and I wouldn't have thought to do that if it weren't for him. You know,
Wow. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, we're so fortunate to have such brilliant minds. I mean, you put Paul McCartney in the mix and Brian Wilson. I mean, to take two individuals having a conversation in the studio, that to me would
Oh man,
have been
wow.
something to watch.
Yes, yes.
Anyway, I mean, we can go on for days, Tris. But I really thank you for being part of this podcast. It's been a while. You've been on my mind to call you and connect, and finally we got this together. So I'm really happy that you were able to do it.
Thank you so much, Aldo. I really enjoyed this.
And thank you. And as I always say, to be continued.